Welcome to Talking Industrial Automation, a podcast where you get to know the people who make modern industrial automation possible. You will get to hear from CSIA system integrators and industry partners to get a better understanding of how they help their clients solve process challenges and how they've earned success in their careers. Along the way, we will touch on system integration best practices, technology, trends, and challenges. Whether you are a manufacturer, end user, supplier, or system integrator, you will enjoy the insights these industry professionals bring to this podcast. Let's get started. Hi, my name is Lisa Richter, the host of Talking Industrial Automation, a podcast where you get to know the people who make modern industrial automation and processing possible. In today's episode, we're talking industrial automation with Cullen Raichart, founder and CEO of GreenBroz, a Las Vegas-based company that provides automated harvesting solutions to the legal cannabis industry. While he has spent the last decade as an entrepreneur and inventor, he has also worked in the corporate world for a Fortune 500 company, as well as served in the U.S. Navy. Most recently, Cullen's company retrofitted a GreenBroz machine originally intended to process cannabis and turned it into a PPE remediator. It is currently going through the FDA fast track approval process. Cullen, welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
In the intro, I talked a little bit about you, but I want to hear more. Tell me about your background and your journey to where you are today.
Well, I've had about 1 million and billion jobs, I think, throughout my life. But I, as an adult, I got into IT. I had a very successful career with doing IT work for the United States Navy, contracting through Hewlett-Packard and EDS and SAIC, a bunch of different companies. So that was my kind of thing that I gravitated to be successful. But I really have always wanted to own my own company and to run a business. I come from a small business family. Like everybody in my family has their own business. And I was like the last guy in, so I wanted to. And at the time I was doing a couple of different things. I was growing on the side because of finances in California, and it's difficult, even though I had a decent income. And then, so that's what got me into cannabis. I understood the market. And then I started getting people who would ask me to, help them with something that was going on. And that's what led me to invent stuff for the industry. And that's how it kind of just got rolling. And then I invented a machine for a friend of mine who wanted it, kind of commissioned it for me. He said, you build me one and you can sell them and do whatever you want to. So I was like, okay, I figured it out. And that was back in 2012. So that was that's kind of what led me up to it. I mean, I've done quite a few, like I said, quite a few different things. And I found that this to me is the most fulfilling thing because I'm able to be creative and productive and challenged all the time. I mean, constantly challenged. So it's exciting.
Do you have a background in engineering? I mean, how did you have the skill set to know how to build these machines?
So it's funny. I took that high school test that back when I was going to high school, they gave you a test and said, you should be this. And I should have been an engineer. But I've been a serial inventor my whole life. Like I've invented so many different little things and I just never had any money or I say money, that's wrong. I didn't have the follow through, so I never found the money. I never got to the next level. And that was really the biggest issue for me. Then when I came across this, I did have the ability. I just decided I wanted to do this and I put everything that way. And then I ended up taking money out of my 401k and my savings, which I've yet to replenish, but I did that. And that's what launched it, because it's interesting. It was more, I always say that, like I didn't have this or didn't have that. Well, it wasn't that. It was the drive. I didn't have the drive to finish. And then when I started this, I just stopped taking no. I mean, I just didn't listen to no.
How would you describe to lay people what you do? Like, what do you tell your mom you're doing?
That's a great question. I mean, I remember I remember telling my mom actually, and she was a little bit chagrined, I think, but she really has always wanted me to follow my passion of inventing and building stuff. So, she got over the cannabis portion of it pretty quickly. But when I have a conversation, so people will ask me all the time, oh, what do you do? And I say, well, I have an equipment manufacturing company over here in Las Vegas. Oh, yeah, what kind of equipment? And I tell them, cannabis harvesting equipment. Oh, wow, that's so cool. It's a completely different conversation. It doesn't really matter anymore what sector or what place in people's lives they are. I still get more crap for my long hair than I do for what I do for a living, which is which I think is hilarious. But but that that's it though. It's really open. I mean, people are really interested. Oh yeah, that's so cool. My cousin does this. My brother does. We're investing over here. Like I meet people and you wouldn't think that they're in the industry, and you have a conversation. They ask you what you do. You tell them that, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I have this company that does this, and my friend does that." We change information, and the network starts to grow. And you're just like, "Wow, so many people are connected in it." So it's really interesting to me. That's 5 years ago. That wasn't like that.
Yeah, so talk about that a little bit more, about how the company has evolved over the years and how it's run this parallel track to a greater acceptance of cannabis, and now CBD oil is all the rage. I mean, it's everything from pet food to, I don't even know what, candles, I guess.
Probably so. Yeah. It's interesting. We're very fortunate. I believe that the company started at the right time, and went along the path of inventing one machine, and then all that experience taught me how to do that, and then invented a second machine, and that machine that was our trimmer, and that's been our most successful machine throughout the years, and that machine's kind of built the company. But I always built the company. So when money came in, we invested, and we built a mechanism or a machine. So I have a 50,000 square foot warehouse. We have several $1 million worth of high value, very, very modern equipment. So we're able to do modern manufacturing now, something that we would never, if I'd had somebody do that work for me, I would never have been able to do. And I don't mean to diverge from the question, but the growth of the company, we've always put it into the company. So as the industry has grown and given us more value and more latitude, if you will, and capital, we've just continued to build this company to be able to do things like the PPE machine. I mean, that kind of was just an opportune moment where we just went, hey, look, we can do this. And we put some things on the side and then went after that. And if I hadn't invested everything into building the infrastructure and building up a company that is truly a manufacturing company, cannabis portion of our company is the fact that we sell to cannabis. Other than that, we're just we're really a manufacturing company. So that's kind of interesting because, like I said, I grew and then I got into the machine side of it, and I'm not getting out of the machine side of it, but that's kind of how it's gone. It's interesting to me anyway.
So what about the growth in terms of revenue or number of employees? Help me understand, put that in context for me.
So in 2012, we formed the company. In 2013, I did $60,000 worth of sales. And last year we did 13 million. That's been just this ramp and skyrocket ride. And like I said, in most of that time, we've gone through some tough times and some tough years, but the company has grown. When we moved last year out of California, I lost all of my labor force. I brought, actually only one person came with me. So we basically had to retool here with people and machines. So we just rebuilt the company all over last year. That whole thing, and then building a new base, and you're trying to keep the culture of your company and all these things. But we're able to do some of that because, we just continuously treat people the same way, and we continuously get the same kind of high quality results out of people and team. We've gone from, it was me when I started, and now it's there's 40 something of us, and we have full medical, dental, vision, benefits. Both my sons work for me, one full-time. My youngest son works part-time, and my daughter works part-time. Not that they're going to take careers here. I don't know. They both have other aspirations, but my oldest son is actually running operations for me. And so it's just kind of expanded and become this really cool business, Yeah,
you're the man. Cool. You're the man.
Thank you.
Right?
Sometimes I feel like that, but then I have to remind myself that actually now I'm just that guy that made a machine in his garage one day. So
I've been working with associations for my whole career, and I can honestly say I have never experienced a group of business professionals so willing to share, collaborate, and support one another as the CSIA community. During these unprecedented times, having a group of peers to turn to is invaluable. Whether the current climate means your phone is ringing off the hook or you're chewing your nails to the quick, now is the time to invest in your company, yourself, and this unique community that has a culture of sharing baked into its DNA. You'll also have access to member benefits such as best practices, insurance and legal programs, marketing tools, professional development opportunities, and so much more. To find out how you can join and contribute to this one-of-a-kind organization, visit www.controlsys.org/member-services. Look, I know these are some crazy times, but the CSIA community is ready to be by your side. All you have to do is join us. So talk a little bit more about, I know it's really hard to use words when visuals would be so much better, but we are in an audio format. So actually explain what these machines do, look like, how big are they? Like, help me get a visual of that.
Sure. So, well, we make machines that we started out going after the hard stuff. First thing I made actually was a kief tumbling machine called our Alchemist. And that machine I patented, and we got a patent, I can't remember, in 13 or 14 that actually says cannabis in the title of the patent. And that was like, wow, we got a cannabis patent, whatever. I don't know. I don't know if it meant anything, but it was cool. That was like a square cube, it's 8 cubic feet inside, and it tumbles and would take all the kief off of your trim. And I thought, man, we're going to kill the world with this. But that was really just the beginning. And that machine taught me how to build machines and how to source and how to design and blah, blah, blah. When I invented the trimmer, which is a follow on to that, we ended up inventing 2 sizes. So we have like a little desktop model. It sits in front of you, does about 1 pound to 2 pounds every 10, 15 minutes or so. And then we invented a larger machine that was more of an industrial machine. So what we've done, and to describe the machines, we always do, I'm a very big visual guy. I'm really into the way things look, and aesthetics are really, really important. So we've always kind of tried to maintain a certain appeal in the way we look. But that's always second to function, right? So you go for function, but you're always building it to make sure that it looks and fits. So if you go to our webpage or you get a chance to see our stuff, you'll see that it all looks very similar. Almost everything we do now is 316 stainless steel. So it's all got the same kind of look and feel and vibe to it. Did I get the question on that?
Yeah, you did fine.
Sometimes I go,
Yeah, well, I guess what my follow-up question to that is, what is the problem inherent in cannabis that required a whole new system or machines? Why couldn't you just go out and retrofit something that handles blueberries?
Well, that's such an appropriate question because cannabis is the most interesting product, I think, in that the flower, the most delicate part of the plant, is the value point, right? Everything else is the flower gets impregnated and then the fruit comes out, and the fruit's the valuable part. Not in this one, man. It's this really, 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 really gentle flower with the trichomes and all the other stuff. And you can't beat it up. You can't abuse it. You got to dry it the right way. You got to harvest it the right way. Everything has to be. That's not unique. I don't mean to make it sound like that's unique. I mean, you harvest blueberries the same way. You make sure they're ripe. But you could throw blueberries in a big bucket of water and run them through a whole bunch of machines where they clean them, scrub them, get everything off of them, and they spit them out and put them in bag. Cannabis doesn't like that. You want to treat it very gently and appropriately. And that's been our biggest focus is we say gentle, quick, quiet. And those are the kind of the trademarks, hallmarks of what we do. And it's always about that. It's always about producing, make sure that at the end of the day, your product is not degraded because you used a mechanical system. That takes designing around the intricacies of cannabis, if you will. So while some of the technology that's out there that we love and we see, we go, hey, look, this is a good idea, but we have to remove this portion of it. We have to redesign it so it doesn't do this thing, whatever that might be. Tumbling of cannabis, violently tumbling cannabis when you're trimming it is inherently dangerous for the trichomes. And, that's not what you want to do. You want to be as gentle as you can be, but, so things like that. So how do you approach that? And then when you're sorting it, it's the same thing. Like, do you want to just vibrate the crap out of it and drop, like sand? It's not sand. You don't want to vibrate it, it turns out, because everything falls off of it. We don't want that to happen. So, our sorter has bands. It's very gentle and very slow. It does a lot of work quickly, but when you see it, it's deceptively slow because it's all about treating the cannabis correctly. And then, and that's a big part of everything that we do. And I think it's really important for people who are looking to purchase, is to look for a company who is designed around the plant, because these guys come in, and I don't mean not anybody specifically, but guys come into this industry and go, man, I'm going to make money here. And they come after it with something that works really well over here. But you get it into the industry and it's an abysmal failure. We see that a lot, especially with packaging equipment. It's just not functional in this environment because cannabis requires so much delicate handling.
So you mentioned a little bit that you guys pivoted to do this PPE remediator work, but how else has the pandemic changed things for you and your company?
Well, I woke up that morning when the announcements came out and they're like, hey, we're shutting it down and we're asking everybody to stay at home. And the whole thing kind of made sense, but I'm like, I don't know where we fall. So we started we did the research, found out that we're an accepted, essential business because we're in manufacturing. And so we immediately went to mass reminding people washing their hands and always bringing out the CDC guidelines and talking to the team about that. We're really fortunate here in that we have, like I said, 50,000 square feet. The number of people on the floor and 50,000 square feet in this shop is probably 20. So you can imagine there's plenty of room. There's not a lot of people bumping into each other. They get closer to each other when they go to breaks, but everybody's aware and cognizant and everybody wears their masks and washes their hands and does those kind of things. So for us, it wasn't as big of an impact to us functionally. It has impacted how we sell. Trade shows are gone. How do we get them back out in that marketplace? How do we keep bringing awareness? So we're playing with different presentation modes. It never is the same on the video as it is live, so we have to create that somehow where people are going to get that same experience. And so we're working really hard to create that kind of, trade show environment so we can bring people in so they can see the equipment. And so there's a lot of challenges to it, but those are, for us, it wasn't around the functional productive side. It was more around the sales and the outreach side. So it was interesting for us. Yeah.
So what do you expect for the company in the next year or two?
Well, I think our growth trajectory is good. We're still maintaining, that same kind of curve. I think this year, 4 products this year that were introduced. Some of them were introduced in Vegas, so they'll be finalized and more mature and starting to sell this year. We have another company that provided their equipment works. We're bringing on as a partner, and we'll be their premier reseller. And we have 2 big pieces of equipment that are essential. We're bringing in a machine that decontaminates, so basically sterilizes for all your mold and all your other cannabis problems. And then we're bringing in a drying machine that dries and cures in as little as 24 hours. It's pretty stunning technology. And that piece of technology is the most exciting technology I've seen. And when I saw it, I met the guys that had it. They've been working on it for 6 years. And when I got the opportunity to get on it and look at it, we just said, hey, listen, if you're into it, we're into it. We'll go all after it. And they are. So we're starting that relationship and we're getting that done. So there's a lot of really cool stuff that's coming out from the company. Our sales are still with our traditional products are very strong, even through the pandemic. And people realize the shortcomings of large labor forces when labor dries up, and so they're like, hey, we need some more machines over here. And we're like, wait, we the guys, we know how to do that part, It's been good for us. Economically, we have done well this year. I would not ever say that the pandemic has been good for us. That's not what I meant. But economically, because of the things that have been going on, we've done okay.
With so many people working from home, canceling in-person meetings and events, and spending more and more time online, it's more important than ever that your digital presence is top-notch and that you find creative ways to maximize your marketing resources and get in front of your customers. The Industrial Automation Exchange and the Talking Industrial Automation podcast are the perfect places to start. The Exchange offers upgrades, packages, and display opportunities to ensure your brand is top of mind during your customers' complicated, research-based buying journey. The Talking Industrial Automation podcast can also help because now you can place your 60-second spot into the podcast. It's super easy and a unique way to reach new audiences. To learn more about the packages and advertising opportunities or how to become a podcast sponsor, contact me, Lisa Richter, at industrydir@controlsys.org. Let's face it, it's a digital world out there, and you need to make sure your company doesn't get left behind. Let the exchange and podcast go to work for you. What's unique about how you approach a problem or a challenge?
I don't know if it's unique or not. I just know how I do it. I'm a really kind of a quiet guy when it comes to a confrontation of that kind, and whether it's a human interaction confrontation or it's a mechanical, physical confrontation, a problem, like you said, I generally take a long time to really evaluate it. So it has to come in. I have an emotional reaction to it. I deal with the emotional part of it. I let that get away from me. Then I look at, why was I emotional? Why was this bothering me? And I try and go down to that part, and I go, okay, now that I understand what's bothering me in this situation, now I can go approach the problem. And then I start approaching the problem, and I say, is there a way to untangle this problem? I don't know. And then that's how you kind of go forward with it. Sometimes that pre-machination or that meditation time or whatever you want to call it, that kind of understanding the problem or the confrontation point takes it. I mean, it'll leave me up at night prior. If I know it's coming, I'm up at night waiting for it. If I don't know it's coming and it hits me in the face, then I still takes me a minute. And people are like, how do you stay so calm? How do you stay? Well, I don't understand. And I'm like, well, first, I never react on impulse or emotion. I just don't do it. I won't do it. And the reason is because I'm completely incapacitated in my emotional response. Like, my emotional response has got me here. And if I react right there, it's got to be wrong. You know what I mean? And that to me is one of the biggest lessons I think I've ever learned. And I think that I can't remember, and I'm sure I'm quoting somebody, but the biggest key to success is emotional control. And I apologize, whoever you are that said that, I'm on your side, and I forgot. I apologize. But I think that's, for me, that's the most important thing, because then you can be measured, and logical, and you can dissect things, and then you can actually get down, and you might find that problem really isn't anything. And that's what's wonderful about it. You're like, oh, why was I, got it. No problem. Not all the time, but
yeah. I got some advice one time that said, if you've got something that's bothering you, think about how you'll feel about it in 5 minutes. Then think about how you feel about it in 5 months. Then think about how you feel about it in 5 years. That really puts it in perspective. Something that's really bothering you now, you're not even going to remember in 5 years. So keep that in mind.
Interesting. Yeah, that's very good. I like that, because that's exactly how it is. You just don't know. And if you make that one decision at this time in a state of fear, anger, depression, excitement, whatever that is, and that decision, which about a non-consequential moment, can change your life. Mm-hmm. So you better be careful. Mm-hmm. That's what I think. Like that, you need to take a breath. You need to be careful right here. Okay. And then look at it. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I do. What would you say the smartest decision your company has made recently? Was it the move? Was it bringing in the part? Yeah. I mean, really, it was the move. And I was in California since 1989, I think 87, 89. I can't remember. Back there, way back there, 89. Yeah. Anyway, I've been to California. I love California. I was in San Diego. I mean, it's one of the most beautiful places in the world. I was not successful in San Diego. I did start this company there. The infrastructure in San Diego is dilapidated. The commercial warehousing and infrastructure is dilapidated in when it's affordable. And if it's not, if it's nice and new, it's unbelievably expensive. And then, the regulation in San Diego and the taxes of California are really burdensome to a growing company. You don't really understand that when you're in it, because you're just doing what you do. You pay this, you pay that, you pay this, you pay that. And then every once in a while, a guy comes in and goes, oh,
have you ever paid this? I'm like, whoa, I don't even know what that is. Like, how? Well, you need to pay this. You're like, who are you? Well, I'm the sewer guy. And oh, you're the sewer guy. Okay. All right. Well, yeah. All right. Okay. So I'm going to pay that too. And that's kind of how my experience was there. The fees and the burdens were pretty heavy. When we moved to Vegas, it was coming off of our worst year. I couldn't survive there anymore because we needed more space. And the burden of the taxation and the regulation was tough for us. When we came to Vegas, when we were looking at Vegas, I was looking at Reno, I was looking at Oregon, I was looking at Texas. And I mean, I'd love to live in Texas. I'd love to live in Oregon. Vegas made me a deal. And they said, listen, if you come out here, we're going to give you some certain incentives and we're going to make this, make this a good environment for you. And we came out, we ended up, walking into 25,000, which we thought was enough, 25,000 square feet, brand new construction, beautiful building. It's a little bit far out of town, but, we were able to buy new equipment and retrofit the whole company. And then, 4 months later, we got another 25,000 square feet because the building was filling up. So we're like, we better get it now. And now, of course, it's full. So that's how life is,
Yeah.
But I think that was the best move, aside from my, in my personal life. I mean, my wife has been here. We've been together 6-7 years now. She's been here because she makes a good living here, much better than she could in California. It's really nice to be home. So it was a good move all the way around.
Professionally and personally.
Yeah, absolutely.
What kinds of trends are you seeing in automation right now?
That's interesting because I think the trend is in automation. Like you can look out and see all their industries and what's going on with them. And cannabis is just a long ways away, right? It's not that it's not. If you want to know what's happening in what's coming in cannabis, look at the way they do mushrooms. Look at the way they do strawberries. Look at the way they do raspberries. Look at the way, that's the future. But that's the now in those other marketplaces, right? So it's companies like ours and other companies. It's our responsibility to show how that's done with the cannabis market, because the market farmers and producers are starting to reach that volume, right? They're reaching that volume where they're no longer able to handle the load by hand. And it's kind of one of those moments where their organization has to realize it. And when they realize it, they're like, we've got to do something and we've got to do it. We've got to do it right now. And there's no answer, right? There's pieces of equipment that solve parts of the problem. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. And there's a lot of companies who focus on specific portions and they go, we do this well. And our company is working toward bringing all of that together so that when you deal with a business partner, you say, hey, we have a solution. We don't have a machine. We have a solution. Now, this machine or that machine or this machine may be part of that for you. But the reality is you need somebody to come in and help you create a solution to your production needs. And that's what automation to me is doing. And that's how this is moving, is the move away from individual answers to cumulative answers, right? So that when you're processing, you're getting high throughput, high consistency, less loss, less damage, complete control of your information. Guys grow all these different kinds. Well, you might be growing one that you think is the best one ever, and it may not be worth it, but you don't know the metrics, right? You have basic ideas about numbers because you don't have all the data. You don't know how much waste is involved, or how much chemicals are used, or fertilizers are used, or how much pest control is needed. All that information is starting to come together. Boom! It's going to just be that power moment where someone's going to have it all in one place, and we see that as being, on the output side, we see that as being essential, right? So if you grow X strain and you put it through the equipment and you get 40% as your yield, your quality yield is 40%, and you grow Y strain and you get 60%, Y is not as valuable as X strain, but you get 20% more at the end. So is it as valuable? That's where you can make the decisions, right? You don't have that information unless you know all that data. So that's another big part of automation in our mind is collecting the information, keeping it ready.
Yeah. So let's speak to that. COVID-19 aside, what do you think is the biggest challenge facing the automation marketplace today?
Well, I think it's the will from the consumer. And that's really where we're at. We're waiting for that push, the demand, right? Because it's supply and demand. Then as bigger companies are becoming more awake to the environment and understanding what their needs are, and some guys are coming in from other industry and they're saying, why isn't there a machine that does all of this? This doesn't make any sense to us, right? I got to buy this. And so people are reaching out to large equipment manufacturers who make specific purpose designed equipment and they're trying to get answers. But those companies are, again, coming from an outside perspective and not with the years of experience in cannabis. So that's where we're trying to get into. That's the challenge. It's just really communicating to those people, like, look, you need to not just buy this solution because it fixes what you do right now. You need to buy a solution you're going to grow into. I learned that lesson very early in my purchasing. I buy equipment that's outside of my abilities, right? It's like, ooh, that's the next level. Why? Because I know that will give us the opportunity to go that direction and expand into it. I bought a specific piece of welding equipment 2 years ago and didn't even plug it in because we thought we were going one direction and it just didn't develop yet. Well, now we're there and I have this piece of equipment and it's like, duh, that's what it was. Now, granted, I didn't have to let it sit for 2 years and there's some waste in there, you know what I mean? But the point is that, like, when I think of a piece of equipment or a purchase on a new piece of equipment, I'm thinking about how is it going to help me to grow tomorrow and be better tomorrow, not does it solve today? Because I figure if I'm looking at it, it's going to solve today, or I shouldn't be looking at it. You know what I mean? Why are you looking at it if it doesn't work for today? So I'm always looking for like that next like thing. And then we engineer that way too. So my engineering team gets on it and we always master our production ability, right? So we always design within the confines of what we can make. And then I buy a new piece of equipment that gives us more ability. And then you see this expansion of thought and design. And these guys go, oh, we could do this, and it's magical. It's wonderful stuff to see these young guys. And these guys all my engineers are young guys. So they drive computers like it's nothing, right? And I'm over here, they're just like video gaming it. But but they have all this creativity and all this ability because we've got the ability, and that's really cool. So. Anyway, but back to the answer is, I think it's we're just waiting on the push from the demand.
Are you one of the 78% of CSIA members who said they wanted cybersecurity training? Well, now you've got it. CSIA has partnered with ISA to bring you a series of online courses that will get you the skills and expertise that are in high demand. This series will be offered throughout 2020 and is designed to prepare you for Cybersecurity Fundamentalist Specialist and Risk Assessment Specialist exams to earn certificates 1 and 2 of 4 that ultimately leads to the Cybersecurity Expert Badge. Best of all, you can access the material anywhere and anytime. To find out more, visit www.controlsys.org/cyber2020. Why not make this the year you earn your cybersecurity badges? I guarantee you won't regret it. Well, what makes you optimistic about the future of the automation industry?
Well, I mean, it's because it's such a necessity. And this ongoing debate about jobs and things like that is a very valid and meaningful debate. And I think those things should be discussed. But on the other side of that, automation is not going anywhere. And the push and the demand for production and increased value and increasing margins, and that's the never-ending, pursuit. And it's funny, I know that there's a lot of talk about, capitalism being bad and blah, blah, blah. But I mean, China's a capitalist country. They're a communist government who has a capitalist system. And capitalism and making money is how everybody functions. So you're going to have to be competitive, and you have to go down that road of being better, more, faster if you want to compete. There's nothing wrong with reaching a place and being happy with a production level. Big companies, especially the larger ones, they're always chasing improvement. And that's, that's kind of part of what we are too. We're always chasing that little bit better improvement, making it better for the user, making it less costly for us, making it less costly for the consumer, these kind of things. We're always looking at that stuff. And that's part of making a better product, making more money, and continuing the cycle. So
turning back to you a little bit, tell me about a mistake you made and what you learned from it.
This is pretty recent. So this is like picking a scab, but I actually brought on a company as a partner that wasn't ready. I really liked the people in the company, and I actually really liked the product. We jumped in though, and it just wasn't ready. And it's really hard to form really mature relationships with immature companies. It's taken us a while to understand what a mature relationship should look like for us. And, a young company, they're bringing all kinds of whatever they're bringing into it, and they may or may not be prepared for being in a viable long-term kind of relationship with another company. And I didn't do my diligence, and I didn't listen to my gut. The short story there is, it cost me quite a bit of capital, and it cost me quite a bit of face in relationship to bringing a product that wasn't quite ready. And so I won't do that again. Won't do that again.
Won't do that again.
Yeah. But you're always, it's so funny. Like in this industry, it's like, for me, it's always a never-ending push to be bringing what's necessary into the marketplace. And so I'm always looking, and I'm always excited about it, but I'm getting better at maybe waiting. We'll just wait this one, see, nurture this one a little bit, but I don't know.
Yeah. There's that saying, failing up, right? You got to fail and fail and fail and fail. And it's not easy and it's painful, but sometimes it's what's necessary.
Well, I look at it as falling forward, right? So if I'm going to fall, I'm going to be moving forward, because then I can catch myself. As soon as I stop and somebody knocks me on my ass, I'm hurt. You're going to lose your breath. And you're stuck, and then you got to need somebody else to get you. At my age, I need somebody else to get me up. So it's definitely better to be moving, and I'm not afraid of failing. I failed more times than I can count, and I don't drive myself to specific numbers, and we don't worry about that. We are worried about taking care of our customers, making the best equipment we can, and making the best relationship experience with our customers that we possibly can.
All right. So this is going to be my final question to you. Maybe this is going to be the hardest one.
Probably.
What's the best advice you could give your younger self just getting started?
That's a tough one. But I think patience, I think there was so much anxiety and so much stress early, because I didn't understand the pace of things. And when you're starting out and you're trying to make money, and depending on the pressure of the money, right, or the pressure of where you're at, like I had a good job. I was doing okay when I started this. At one point in time, I had to make a decision to switch and do this instead of that. That was a little bit of pressure. But some people are in the point where I got to survive. That's a different kind of pressure. But there's this thing that happens. There's this moment of movement, and every project has its own moment or its own kind of pace to it. Like this FDA, we came out with this, basically invented this machine for the PPE thing right away. I mean, it took us like a week to retrofit and come up with a design concept. And we've been just busting our asses trying to get it through the emergency use thing. And, you would think in a pandemic with the emergency needs, it'd be like that. Oh no. But so it has its own pace, that's what it is. I mean, that's the whole point of it. It has a pace, and we know it, and we're getting used to it. And so that's over here going through its paces while we're working on something else. And when I was starting, I didn't understand that things would take care of themselves and I could be working on something else. And so I get caught and lost in this, this crazy angst about getting this thing done. When it's doing its thing, it's going to get done, and that's what the hardest thing for me. So patience would be my biggest takeaway to give to myself younger, and just say, listen, you got to have to wait some of these things out, for sure.
Well, that's it for today's episode of Talking Industrial Automation. If you are interested in learning more about Cullen Raichart or GreenBroz, you can find them at www.greenbroz.com. Thanks for listening, and thank you, Cullen, for joining me today.
Thank you.
If you enjoy this podcast, please subscribe in iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, or wherever you listen to podcasts. You can also help others find us by leaving a 5-star review and sharing your favorite episodes with colleagues. Thanks for listening to the Talking Industrial Automation podcast. Thanks also to bensound.com and Wistia for the music bumpers. Until next time.